I never imagined one evening could change everything. What started as a quiet night with my grandpa, just dinner, a movie, like so many times before, turned into something I never saw coming by. The time we were alone in his room, I didn't recognize the situation. Anymore, it felt wrong, but I couldn't pull away. What happened next still haunts me. I've never shared this with anyone, but tonight, I'm ready to tell you. Trust me. You won't be able to forget it. I would like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and like our videos. Every click of yours is valuable to us as it gives us more motivation to continue sharing more meaningful stories with you if you like our content. We encourage you to share and leave questions below. Every interaction is a way to build a closer and more connected community, and I invite you to stay with us until the end of the video. I am very grateful to you. My grandpa was always there for me. He was the one person I could always count on, the one who made me feel safe, no matter what. I spent so many weekends at this house, and it felt like a second home. There was something comforting about it, the smell of his old leather chair. The way the house seemed to always be filled with warmth that evening started like any other. My parents were out of town, and I was staying with him for a few days. After dinner, we decided to watch a movie in the living room, a little Netflix and chill, as they say. It was a routine. I had grown so used to just the two of us winding down after a long day. We picked a lighthearted comedy, something to laugh about to keep things easy and light. But as the movie played, something shifted. I can't explain it, but the way he looked at me felt different, and I couldn't ignore the way I felt either at first. I brushed it off. Maybe I was imagining things. After all, he was my grandpa, the one I trusted most. But then, as the movie went on, we sat closer, our arms brushing against each other. Our latter faded into quiet, lingering looks. It wasn't the kind of look I was used to. Something about it made my heart race, and I couldn't figure out why. As the movie played, something started to feel off. At first, I couldn't explain it, but the air in the room felt thicker, like something was changing. Something. I wasn't ready for. The soft hum of the TV was all we could hear. But it seemed distant now. The room, which had always been so familiar, felt foreign. The way he looked at me, it wasn't the same. His eyes lingered just the second too long, and his smile, which had always been warm, suddenly seemed different. Almost like he was seeing something in me that I wasn't sure I wanted him to see. I tried to dismiss it, telling myself it was nothing. But then, as I shifted on the couch, our arms brushed against each other. It was just a fleeting touch, barely a second. But in that instant, it felt as if time itself had stopped. The sensation of his skin against mine sent a jolt through me, and my heart started racing in a way that I couldn't ignore. I felt a lump form in my throat, my breath catching in my chest. And before I could fully process what was happening, instinctively pulled away, retreating as if trying to escape the feeling. But I didn't move far enough to make the distance feel normal again. I glanced over at him, and to my surprise, he was already looking at me. His eyes were soft, but there was something deeper in them, something I hadn't noticed before. It wasn't just warmth, it was an intensity, assailant's question that seemed to hang in the air between us. It felt as if he was waiting for me to say something to break the silence and restore some sense of normalcy. But I couldn't bring myself to speak. I was frozen, my mind racing in circles, trying to comprehend what was unfolding in this quiet, charged moment. Couldn't figure out how to make it stop. And that uncertainty overwhelmed me. I wanted to pull away further, to shake off the strange energy that was tugging at me. But I was paralyzed. I was too afraid to move, too caught up in the confusion and the magnetic pull I felt toward him. It felt wrong in some way. Yet at the same time, there was something undeniable about it. Something I couldn't quite understand or explain. In that moment, aerialization hit me. There was no easy way to make it stop. I couldn't break the silence, couldn't pretend that everything was fine anymore. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that ignoring it wasn't an option. And the realization scared me more than I cared to admit. The silence between us seemed to grow, heavier with each passing second. Just as I thought I might finally gather my thoughts, he reached for my hand. His touch was gentle, but purposeful, as if he was giving me the chance to pull away, if I wanted to. But I didn't. I couldn't. My hand remained still in his, my pulse pounding in my ears, the tension in there thick and palpable. And then, as if everything in the room had converged into that one moment, he leaned in. Every part of me screamed to stop it, to push him away, to pretend none of this was happening. But instead, I stayed frozen, my heart racing even faster when his lips met mine. It was soft, tentative, almost as if he was testing the waters, unsure of what he was doing or how I would react. But I could feel the tension between us, like an electric charge hanging in, there, undeniable and all-consuming. At first, it was slow, tentative almost, uncertain, like neither of us was quite ready to die in. But then, almost without warning, it deepened. The kiss transformed from something simple into something far more profound, as though it carried weight, meaning, and intention that neither of us had expected. The movie, the room, the world outside, all of it faded away. It was as if time itself had paused, and in that suspended moment it was just the two of us wrapped in this intimate space. And for a brief second I couldn't tell if I wanted it to end. There was a rush of heat that flooded through me. A wild combination of excitement and fear that tangled up inside, making my pulse race and my breath catch my mind, screamed at me that this was wrong, that should pull back, that I should stop before it went any further. But my body betraying me refused to obey. I didn't know how to stop, or if I even wanted to. I was lost, completely consumed by the feeling of his touch, the heat of his skin against mine, the way everything suddenly seemed to align in that one fleeting moment of connection. It was as though nothing else mattered, not even the swirling doubts that tried to surface in my mind. But deep down, beneath the whirlwind of sensations, Ying knew something had shifted. I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it meant or how to explain it, but the change was undeniable, and that terrified me. Had pulled back for just a moment, his breath warm and shallow against my skin, and in the stillness of the room, his voice came low and almost reverent, light and Gosam, where, more private. I didn't need to think about it. I didn't hesitate for even a second. My heart was pounding violently in my chest, and for the briefest moment, a voice in my head wondered if I should stop, if I should say something to break the spell. But the words were stuck in my throat, too heavy to form. Instead, I followed him, the sound of my own heartbeat drowning out everything else. As I moved toward his room, my mind spinning in a blur of conflicting emotions. It felt as though we were both caught in some invisible form course, unable to break free each step, heavier than the last, the weight of what we were about to do, pressing down on me like an unspoken truth. But once I crossed that threshold, once I was there with him in his room. There was no turning back. The safety, the comfort of the living room was gone, replaced by the silence of the dark, unfamiliar space. It was just us, now alone with nothing to protect us from what was happening. It stood still for a moment, almost frozen, treeing to process the warp turn of events, but he didn't need to say anything. Neither of us needed words anymore. The air between us was thick with tension, so palpable it almost hurt. I could feel the pull between us, magnetic. Inevitable, like gravity, was dragging me closer to him. His touch, though gentle, was firm as his hands found their way to me. And in that instant, every feeling I had, excitement, fear, confusion, melted into one overwhelming sensation. His proximity was intoxicated, dizzying, and when he kissed me again, I felt the warmth of his body pressed against mine, a heat that radiated through me, leaving me breathless and wanting more in that moment. Everything was so intense, so live, even though part of me knew it was wrong. I couldn't make sense of it, but I didn't want it to stop the guilt, the uncertainty. They were distant memories, now almost irrelevant as we shared that connection. That brief but powerful intimacy. It felt like the rest of the world had faded into the background. I was caught in the tension between wanting to pull away and being utterly powerless to stop myself. I didn't want to think about the consequences or the fact that I shouldn't be doing this. I just wanted to feel wanted to stay in this moment for as long as I could, even if I knew deep down that it was something I could never truly explain. In his room, everything was magnified. The atmosphere was dense, thick with an intensity that pressed in from all sides. I couldn't quite grab what was happening anymore, and I wasn't sure if I even wanted to. It wasn't just the physical closeness, though that was overpowering enough. It was something deeper, something that tugged at me emotionally. There was an undeniable pull, an invisible thread between us that seemed to draw me in, with a force I couldn't resist in those sentiments. I felt more seen, more understood than I ever had before. It wasn't just that he wanted me. It was that he made me feel cherished in a way that consumed me entirely, even though knew it was wrong. I felt overwhelmed by the intensity of it, the contrast between the desire to pull away and the yearning to stay a part of. Me screamed for reason, for clarity. To break free and step back from whatever, this was but another part, one that I could barely recognize, begged me to hold. And to stay in the warmth of it all, I couldn't explain what was happening, or why it felt so real, so raw. Every touch, every lingering look, it was as if we had created our own language and spoken yet so clear it felt like we were communicating in ways words could never reach, and the intensity of that connection was all-encompassing. Each moment was a struggle to make sense of what was real, what was wrong. And yet I couldn't break away. The pull kept drawing me back, even when my mind screamed to stop. And then the next night came, and the next, like clockwork. Each time we found ourselves back in his room, repeating the same cycle of emotions, the same actions. It was as if we were caught in an unending loop, only to realize that, with every encounter, we were getting closer, but also slipping further, away from the versions of ourselves that we used to know, the people we had always. Then I couldn't ignore the weight of what we were doing, the knowledge that it was wrong, that it couldn't end well, but at the same time, I couldn't shake the overwhelming intensity of how it made me feel. The feelings of desire, of being wanted, of being cherished, mixed together, With an undeniable guilt and confusion, I couldn't separate them, they intertwined, until they became a single overpowering force that I had no idea how to escape. The days turned into nights, and each time it felt heavier, as if a world around us was pressing down on me, reminding me of the mistake I was making. There was no escaping it. It followed me, wherever I went, lingering like a shadow in the corner of my mind. The mornings were the worst. The sunlight would creep through the windows, and instead of offering comfort, it felt cold, harsh. As potlight shining, direct lie on the shame. I had tried so hard to bury the warmth I once associated with the early light of day was replaced by a chill that seemed to seep into my very bones. When I looked at him during the day, it wasn't the same. He wasn't the person I had known before. His smile, once so familiar and comforting, now felt like a reminder of the secret. We shared a secret that I couldn't escape. It was always there, hanging between us, even when the world around us moved on. I couldn't tell if have felt the same way, but something between us had undeniably shifted. It wasn't just guilt. It was something deeper, more complex, something that lingered in there around us. Every time I considered stopping, or tried to convince myself to walk away, I was overwhelmed by memories of his touch, the warmth of his presence, and I couldn't seem to shake them. It was as though I was trapped in a battle between two versions of myself, the one who knew this was wrong, and the one who couldn't seem to resist the pull. I told myself I would stop. I promised myself I'd walk away. But when night fell, I found myself drawn to him all over again. Each night spent in his room felt like I was stepping into a completely different world, a world where nothing mattered except us, where the noise of the outside world faded into nothingness. But as the door closed behind me and that familiar knot twisted in my stomach, I knew I shouldn't be there. I knew it was a mistake, and yet I couldn't bring myself to leave his presence, his energy. It was like a magnetic force pulling me, matter how loud the voice in my head screamed for me to walk away. The hardest part, though, was the overwhelming confusion. The emotions inside me swirled like a storm, and I couldn't make sense of them. Was it desire? Was it guilt? Was it fear? Or was it all of those things, tangled together? I started questioning everything about myself. How had I let it get this far? Why couldn't I stop? And more troubling still, why? Deep down, didn't I want to stop? I felt like I was living two completely separate lives, one where I acted like everything was normal, and another where I was secretly consumed by this impossible and dangerous connection. It drained me, but the pull was so strong each night it swore it would be the last. And yet every time I found myself back in his room, stuck in a cycle that seemed impossible to break, the realization hit me suddenly, crashing over me like a tidal wave. I wasn't just trapped in this situation. I was trapped by my own emotions, my own desires, and that was the hardest pill to swallow. The most painful truth of all was that I didn't even know if I wanted it to end. Looking back, now, I'm still haunted by the memories of those nights. They've stayed with me, imprinted in my mind, and shaped who I am today. I've spent countless hours trying to make sense of everything, wondering what went wrong, questioning every choice, every feeling, every moment. Was it love? Was the desperate need for connection? Or was it something else entirely? At the time, I couldn't understand it. Even now, I don't have all the answers, and maybe I never will. What I do know, though, is that those nights changed me in ways I couldn't have anticipated. They forced me to. confront parts of myself I didn't even know existed. I can't say I found peace with what happened. I don't think I ever will. But I've learned to live with it. It's become a part of my story, now an indelible chapter that can't be erased. No matter how much I might wish I could forget it, and though it's painful to look back on, it serves as a reminder of just how fragile we are as human beings, of how easily we can be swept away by motions we can't fully understand, and how hard it is to escape them once they've taken rot opening up to you. About this hasn't been easy, and it's something I've been reluctant to do for a long time. But I've come to realize that sometimes the act of sharing, our experiences, especially the difficult ones, can be a crucial step toward healing. I hope that by speaking about it, I might not only begin to, but also offer some comfort or insight to anyone out there who may be struggling with their own inner battles. Life is full of twists and turns, and often it can feel chaotic, overwhelming, or downright unexplainable. Yet despite the hardships we face, it's these very experiences, both the joyful and the painful, that ultimately shape us into who we are meant to be. If there's one lesson I've learned through it all, it's that we can't let our past hold us captive. We can't let the mistakes, the heartbreaks, or the tragedies define us forever. Instead, we must find the strength to move forward, even when it feels like the weight of everything is too much to bear. It's never easy, but the only way out is. Through life has a strange way of thrusting us into situations we never could have anticipated. Have you ever found yourself in a moment so profound that it left you questioning everything? You thought you knew a moment that marked you, that changed you in ways you couldn't have imagined. I would love to hear your thoughts and reflections. If you were in my shoes, what would you have done? How would you have handled? I'd invite you to share your perspective in the comments below. If this story resonates with you in any way, I'd be so grateful if you'd give it a like and share it with someone who might also relate to what I've shared. And please don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to hear more stories that dive into the complexities of life, love, and the tough decisions we face along the way. Your support means more to me than words can express. And I'm so excited to continue sharing this journey with you.